Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, just checking to make sure my microphone is on. I want to discuss a few strategies specifically around how to deal with any anxiety, frustration, fears, or just not so wonderful patterns as a result of adapting to sort of this ever-changing environment that we're going through right now. So, what I'm going to go through specifically here is the different sort of patterns of suffering that can be created by situations like what we're experiencing right now with the isolation and the quarantine and the disconnect. And I want to target the very specific buckets. So anxiety or any stressful emotions are always created by one of basically three things, though two of them are closely intertwined: painful beliefs and thoughts, which come with them, or unmet needs. And when we can dial in and get to the root of these specific things and create strategies for them and create ways to pivot around them, we start to get a lot more room to be in charge of how a situation impacts us. It doesn't mean that we're in control of everything in our lives, but we are in control of how we respond to it. And I know that we hear this all the time, like, oh, you're in control of your response. And it's like, yeah, but what does that really mean? So in this video, I'm going to take you through that and sort of dissect what that means and break it into pieces that are practical and useful for you in your daily life right now. So before I dive in super quick, we are offering as much support as we can for our community right now. So scholarship options for people, discounts. We have a coupon code below for 25% off either single course purchases or bundled options. So like subscriptions for 3 months, 6 months, etc. And the coupon code is with you, all one word. And so when you go to purchase on the website, you just put that code in and it'll take that 25% off for you. Also, reach out to us. Like if you're in a financial bind or anything like that, just reach out to my team at info@personaldevelopmentschool.com and we're going to set things up for everybody. So yeah, what we do and what we're sort of doing, and I won't go into it too much, but we're doing at least 2 live webinars a week. We're thinking of adding a third for the month of April. We've got tons of amazing people coming in, and the webinars are super beneficial for any personal questions you want to have answered, any support, or just community connection. And we also have a mastermind group where people can connect and do these sort of breakout sessions together for members of the school. So stay tuned for that, and feel free to let me know anything that you need or want me to make a video about in the comments below. And I'm really going to see that I go through all these comments and do as much content as I can here to support you during this time. So let's talk about the isolation and the quarantine. So obviously, number one, this is not the easiest time, period. Like we can't control what's happening in our external environment. We can't control how long the isolation is going to be taking place for, any of that. But what we can try to control is how we're responding in terms of what thoughts we allow to run on autopilot, or what internal belief patterns we allow to be triggered and activated within ourselves. And in my experience as a human being and working with so many different people over the years in practice and inside of the school and classes that I've taught in person for years, what I always find is that we can sort of get used by our thoughts and belief patterns, or we can start to try to become conscious and intentional. And what I find is that these painful or challenging experiences that happen to us from our external environment, they always touch first on the things inside of our subconscious mind that are most alive within us, that need the most healing. So for example, let's say that you have an abandonment wound or trigger from childhood. Okay, maybe your parents were emotionally abandoning you, maybe you were adopted and put in foster care, maybe there was just a lot of incongruency and distrust, and you felt abandoned physically by your parents from time to time because you were put to your grandmother's every weekend, or who knows. If you have that wound, this is probably going to hit that first. And so an important first reframe that I want you to look at is, instead of these things happening and us just suffering on autopilot, I want you to look at what's triggering you and recognize that this is an opportunity to see what still needs healing inside of you, what's been stored in your subconscious mind and what's being activated and pushed on and brought to the conscious surface through your emotional responses. And if we look at it as an opportunity to see ourselves at a deeper level, to recognize wounded parts of ourselves, and then to use tools for healing, for reprogramming, repatterning, we are going to feel like we're more in charge of the experience rather than the experience being in charge of us and us feeling helpless to it. So I want you to start, okay? If you have a moment here, get a pen and paper. You can pause this video, but I want you to first start by writing out all of the things that are being triggered, okay? What kind of wounds? And I'm going to give you some really common ones specific to different attachment styles, okay? Avoidance, both fearful and dismissive, generally both share wounds around feeling trapped, helpless, powerless, unsafe, vulnerable. They don't really like those feelings. They also feel, if they're isolated, sometimes if something's wrong with them, they can carry guilt or shame. So I want you to like write out what's showing up for you the most, okay? And then in the more anxious side, which is also shared by fearful avoidance, also known as anxious avoidance or disorganized attachment, in the more anxious side, we'll see things like alone, abandoned, excluded, disliked, not good enough. These tend to be more of the sort of core things. And you might see very specifically that based on your attachment style, specific core wounds are showing up for you, specific belief patterns or thoughts related to those core belief patterns. So for example, if you feel trapped, you might not be sitting in your home thinking I'm trapped, but you might be thinking like, I feel so stuck here. I can't get out of here. Oh my gosh, I don't feel like I have any control over the situation. When's this going to end? What's going on? And if you were to look at the meaning you give to these thoughts, you'd see that they're rooted in the core belief of being trapped. So I hope that that makes sense. Your thoughts are kind of like the offspring of painful belief patterns. And these belief patterns are almost always stored in our subconscious from previously traumatizing or painful experiences. Okay. And our mind stores these painful past experiences and it keeps them and holds on tight because it wants us to protect them. So it's like if you were walking through the forest and you saw a bear one day, the next day, if you're walking through the same trail, which hopefully you're not, you're going to be super afraid. Like the bear could be here. Oh my gosh. And those beliefs and thoughts are going to be really active around that association of the bear in that space in the forest. And so, or maybe in any space in the forest. And so your brain's just activating all this stuff because it's trying to keep you safe. But this can really hurt on an emotional suffering level. And so we want to first get really clear and make very conscious what's happening, because when we isolate a problem, that's how we make it a solvable problem. So I'm not going to go into reprogramming in this video and different tools to reprogram. We've got a ton of resources inside the school for that, or I can make future videos about that specifically. Maybe that'll be my follow-up video here. But what I can tell you is that another easy strategy that's very simple for this video is to write out in the column next to these things, okay, how can I reframe my thinking when I find myself going back down that path again, okay? Or what do I need to help mitigate this situation so that I'm not triggered in advance? So let's say, for example, you're feeling trapped or helpless or out of control. You can ask yourself, what's going to give me more of a feeling of control in my life again? Is it making a daily schedule? Is it setting intentions? Something that I did with my partner this evening, which was a really beautiful and fun thing to do, is we put like a bucket list together. And I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, this is a fun time to be isolated, but I'm saying you can make the most of the situation. And so we decided like different outdoor activities that we're going to do, as long as we're making sure that we're keeping social distance and respecting the safety of everybody around us. And so, we came up with all these outdoor things that we can do, and remote places that we can bike ride, and trails that we can hike, and bonfires, because we live by this sort of water area, and there's little bonfire areas that are way off from other people, and there's just we came up with all these sort of activities that we want to do to be able to still feel like we are living during this time. And we came up with strategies for a relationship, things that we want to work on together or in our home, all these different things, so that we can keep sort of expanding ourselves during this time. And this is another thing I'm going to highly recommend, is take the time to be like, and that will give you a feeling of control to some degree, okay? Now, you don't attach to these things and put all these expectations, because we don't know, like maybe things change and dynamics shift, but we want to have intentions for ourselves so that we're not on autopilot just reacting to these things. And reframe your thinking. So how can you reframe your thoughts? If you catch yourself going down this rabbit hole of just like thought and emotion about Oh, this is never going to end. I can't stand this any longer. Reframe that and be like, okay, this is a challenging time, but this is going to end at some point, and this is what I can take away from it, or this is how I can learn from it or grow from it, or this is a time to connect to people more vulnerably on the phone or through Zoom or Skype, whatever it is. Reframe your thinking and then reframe your behavioral patterns and the ways that you're going to get your needs met so you don't get caught in these loops. So I will follow up about those core belief patterns that we've sort of started to identify, and the thought offspring that come with them. I'll follow up with a video at some point about reprogramming specifically and how you can actually sort of break this pattern or cycle. One other really quick thing I'll add super fast is there's something in neurolinguistic programming referred to as a pattern interruption. And one great thing to do if you catch yourself in a cycle or spiral of thoughts is to say cancel, cancel, and then replace with a healthier thought. And this isn't a thought that's like a lie to yourself. It's not like there is no COVID, there is no isolation. It's not like something where you're just denying everything. It's like, yeah, this is a hard time, but I'm strong and I believe in myself to be able to get through it. And there are people I can connect to in different ways. I do have some control in my life in this area, this area, this area. It's like creating intentional thoughts using your conscious mind that inspire and empower you instead of keep you feeling stuck and unsafe. And you have control over that. So check in with your beliefs, see what comes up, the thought patterns or thought offspring that are related to those beliefs. Look for the behavioral patterns that are showing up in your life that are unhealthy and try to change them. Look for the needs that are unmet and try to create conscious or intentional strategies to get those needs met. And I'll see you in the next video where we'll talk more about some conscious reprogramming of those beliefs. Thank you so much for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe to this channel.